Sometimes, the biggest emotional shifts begin in silence rather than chaos. They unfold quietly, through subtle reactions, unfinished conversations, and moments that reveal far more than anyone intended. Recently, something happened that carried far more weight than it appeared to on the surface. It started during an ordinary conversation, but the atmosphere changed the instant your name was mentioned. Someone close to them, a person who had grown a little too confident in their place around your person, let their emotions slip without realizing how much they were exposing. The frustration in their voice revealed more truth than they meant to share. It was not the words alone that caught everyone's attention, but the emotion behind them, the tension, the irritation, the unmistakable sense of discomfort that surfaced the moment your name entered the conversation, made one thing clear to everyone listening: your presence still matters far more than they wanted to admit. The room fell quiet because people recognized what had truly happened. No one reacts that strongly to someone who feels unimportant. No one carries that much emotion toward a connection they do not secretly see as significant. In that unexpected moment, hidden feelings became visible without anyone directly confessing them, and the person at the center of it all noticed too. For a long time, certain truths had remained unspoken simply to avoid conflict or keep emotional balance intact. Things were ignored, feelings were pushed aside, and silence became easier than honesty. But hearing that reaction changed something within them. It forced them to confront emotions that had been quietly building beneath the surface for much longer than they realized. Suddenly, what had once been easy to avoid no longer felt possible to ignore, and the emotional clarity that followed began shifting the way they saw everything between you. But hearing another person publicly reveal what should have remained hidden, hearing them speak about you with such emotional intensity, hearing them indirectly admit that your name still carries power, it ignited something. At first your person said very little. They simply stared, and sometimes silence says more than anger ever could, because when someone truly loses emotional control, there is usually noise. But when they are struck by something painfully true, when they hear the truth spoken aloud before they are ready for it, the reaction is often stillness. That stillness did not last long, because what began as tension soon turned into confrontation. Words were exchanged, sharp words, honest words, the kind of words people only speak when pretending is no longer possible. And in the middle of that fight, something was revealed that no one expected. Your person defended you, not casually, not politely, not in a way that could be explained away later. They defended you with emotion. They defended your character, your name, the way you have been misunderstood, the way others have spoken about you without understanding your heart. And that defense did not come from obligation, it came from feeling, real feeling, because people do not fight that hard over someone they no longer care about. They do not lose composure over names that mean nothing. They do not raise their voice for people they have forgotten. That is what made the argument so intense. It was never just about what the third party said. It was about what their words exposed. They exposed that your person's emotions have never fully left. They exposed that your memory still creates tension. They exposed that despite everything done to move on, distract, replace, suppress, or deny, you remain a subject too powerful to be mentioned lightly. And perhaps what shocked your person most was not the accusation itself. It was realizing how obvious everything has become. Because when another person can see your influence this clearly, when another person becomes jealous enough to announce it publicly, when another person is emotionally triggered simply by the mention of you, then the truth is no longer private. It has become visible. And that realization unsettled your person deeply, because for a long time, they may have convinced themselves they had more control than they actually did. They may have believed their emotions were hidden, They may have believed no one noticed the hesitation in their voice when your name appeared. For a long time they believed they had hidden their emotions well enough that no one would ever notice the truth beneath the surface. But little reactions began revealing more than they intended. The change in their expression whenever your name appeared in conversation, the sudden shift in mood when someone mentioned the past, the quiet tension that surfaced whenever topics drifted too close to you, all of it slowly became impossible for others to ignore. What once seemed subtle finally became visible to everyone around them. People began recognizing that something unresolved still existed, something deeper than simple memories or old emotions. Eventually, questions were asked that they could no longer avoid. Why did your name still affect them so strongly? Why did they react so quickly whenever someone spoke about you? Why did they seem protective over a connection they claimed was behind them? Those questions carried more weight than anyone realized, because they forced emotions into the open that had been carefully buried beneath silence and pride. After the conversation ended and the tension faded, they were left alone with thoughts they could no longer escape. In the quiet afterward came a realization far heavier than embarrassment or frustration. They understood that despite time, distance, misunderstandings, or emotional walls, their feelings for you had never truly disappeared. They had only been hiding them from themselves as much as everyone else. That truth has slowly started changing them from within. Once someone realizes their emotions are still alive and visible no matter how hard they try to suppress them, pretending becomes exhausting. They now find themselves caught between vulnerability and honesty, feeling exposed because others can finally see what they spent so long trying to conceal. Yet beneath all the discomfort is another feeling quietly growing stronger, the relief of no longer denying what their heart has known for a very long time. There is another feeling growing, clarity, because sometimes conflict reveals what comfort hides. Sometimes it takes chaos for someone to understand the depth of what they truly feel, and your person is beginning to understand something they resisted for a long time. No one else would fight this hard over your name if your connection meant nothing. No one else would feel threatened by your existence if your place had truly been replaced. No one else would bring you up in anger if your impact had faded away. That is what the third party accidentally revealed to everyone. Their jealousy was not random. Their outburst was not meaningless. Their announcement was born from something they have sensed for a while, that no matter how present they tried to be, a part of your person remained emotionally elsewhere, with you, and perhaps your person is only now beginning to grasp how impossible it has become to deny that, because the fight did not simply expose jealousy, it exposed unfinished emotion, unresolved attachment, lingering memory, a connection that never fully dissolved, and your person has not been the same since. Something in them has softened, something in them has become restless. Something in them keeps replaying that moment in their mind. Not the shouting, not the embarrassment, not the tension, but the truth underneath it. The truth that someone else noticed how deeply you still matter. The truth that they defended you without thinking. The truth that their heart reacted before their mind could stop it. And reactions like that are difficult to forget, especially when they reveal more than words ever have. So now your person sits with questions they were not ready to face. Why did I react like that? Why did hearing them speak about you affect me so deeply? Why did defending you feel automatic? Why does your presence still live this strongly inside me? Questions like these change people. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. Because once a person starts asking honest questions, their heart usually leads them somewhere they can no longer avoid. And what your person is approaching now, what they are beginning to sense, is that this situation was never as finished as they pretended it was. There are emotions still waiting to be understood, words still waiting to be spoken, truths still waiting to rise, and perhaps the most powerful part of all is that this fight did not pull your memory further away from them. It brought you closer to the center of their thoughts than you have been in a long time, because now every time they replay that argument, every time they remember what was said, every time they think about why they reacted so strongly, they are forced to confront you again, not physically, but emotionally, and that confrontation has only just begun, because what your person realizes next, when they finally understand why even others can see what they tried to hide, will change the way they view this connection forever, my beloved child. Since that night, silence has not brought your person peace. It has only made everything louder inside them, because when the noise of an argument fades, when the room empties, when distractions disappear, and no one is left to perform for, truth has a way of returning in its rawest form, and that is exactly what has been happening. Your person has been replaying every second of that confrontation, not because they want to relive the tension, but because something inside them keeps pulling them back to the moment their emotions betrayed them before they could stop it. In the beginning, they attempted to justify their reaction with logic. They told themselves they were simply standing up for respect and fairness, convincing themselves that anyone would have responded the same way in that situation. They tried to believe their emotions came only from principle rather than anything personal. But the more they replayed the moment in their mind, the more difficult it became to accept that explanation completely. There was something much deeper hidden inside their reaction, something emotional and impossible to ignore. The intensity in their voice, the frustration that surfaced the instant your name was mentioned, and the instinctive need to defend you revealed feelings that could not be explained away so easily. That was not the response of someone who had truly become emotionally detached. It was not the reaction of someone whose heart had fully let go. It came from a place far more personal, a place where old emotions still existed beneath layers of pride, silence, and denial. As this realization slowly settled within them, everything around them began to shift in subtle but undeniable ways. Even the person closest to the situation could feel it. After the disagreement, the atmosphere between them changed completely. Conversations no longer flowed naturally. Smiles seemed forced, and the comfort that once existed became strained beneath the weight of unspoken truth. It was no longer just about one uncomfortable moment. Something much larger had surfaced, and once exposed, it could not simply disappear again. Deep down, the other person began sensing what they may have feared all along, that despite all the time, effort, and closeness invested, a part of your person's heart still remained emotionally connected to someone they never fully forgot, and that quiet understanding changed the dynamic between them in ways neither could pretend not to notice anymore. Your memory. And there is something deeply unsettling about realizing the person beside you is emotionally haunted by someone they insist they are over. That tension began to grow, quietly at first, a coldness in conversation, an irritation over small things, questions disguised as jokes, comments made with hidden resentment, but beneath every little moment was one truth neither of them wanted to say directly. You had become the invisible presence in every room, even without speaking, even without appearing, even without doing anything at all. Your existence had become impossible for them to ignore, and your person felt that pressure more than anyone, because every suspicious question, every subtle jab, every emotional reaction from the third party forced them to confront something uncomfortable. If there were truly nothing left between you and their heart, why did everyone sense otherwise? That question has been following them, in the car, late at night, during random quiet moments when their mind drifts where they no longer control it, and the more they ask themselves that question, the more memories begin returning. Not in dramatic flashes, not all at once, but in quiet pieces. A laugh of yours they suddenly remember, a conversation they once dismissed but now replay differently, a look in your eyes they did not fully understand until now, a moment when they almost said something vulnerable, but held back. Memory has a strange way of resurfacing when the heart is no longer able to suppress it, and your person has entered that stage now, the stage where forgetting stops working, the stage where distance no longer numbs what they feel, the stage where pretending becomes more exhausting than honesty, and perhaps what affects them most is not simply remembering you. It is realizing how much of you they carried with them without noticing. Certain phrases remind them of you. Certain songs hit differently now. Certain places feel emotionally charged, for reasons they cannot explain to anyone else. Even ordinary moments have started triggering reflection, because once someone's heart opens a door it fought to keep shut, everything behind that door rushes forward, and that is what is happening. The emotions they kept postponing are finally catching up with them, and the truths they tried so hard to bury are beginning to rise back to the surface, stronger than ever. Feelings they once believed time would slowly erase now stand directly in front of them, impossible to ignore. At the same time, the other person involved has started sensing the emotional distance growing between them. It is not something obvious at first glance, but it can be felt in quiet moments, in shorter conversations, in distracted expressions, and in the way someone can be physically present while emotionally somewhere else entirely. That subtle disconnect has become harder to hide. The silence carries weight now, and the uncertainty surrounding it has created tension that everyone can feel. Fear often causes people to hold tighter when they sense something slipping away, and that is exactly what has started happening. More questions are being asked, more reassurance is being sought, and more pressure is being placed on emotions that no longer feel simple or certain. But real connection cannot be forced through pressure. In many cases, pressure only exposes what is missing beneath the surface. Every attempt to demand certainty has only made your person feel more conflicted inside, because they are being pushed to prove feelings they are no longer fully confident about, while simultaneously realizing that their emotions for you may never have disappeared at all. That inner battle has become emotionally exhausting. Some days they feel frustrated with themselves for still caring so deeply. Other days they try even harder to push your memory aside and convince themselves it no longer matters. Yet the smallest reminders continue breaking through their defenses. A familiar phrase, an unexpected memory, or even hearing your name can instantly bring everything rushing back. Deep down, they are no longer struggling because they doubt what they feel. They are struggling because the feelings have become too real to deny any longer, fighting them, because they finally know they are real. And that changes everything. Because denial survives only when uncertainty exists. Once certainty enters, denial becomes suffering, and your person is suffering through that shift now. They know this is no longer just nostalgia, no longer curiosity, no longer temporary emotion. What they feel is deeper than passing thought. It is attachment unfinished, emotion unresolved, connection unanswered. And while they wrestle with that truth, another realization has started to emerge, one they did not expect. They have begun comparing, not intentionally, not cruelly, not consciously at first, but naturally. They compare how conversations feel now versus how they felt with you. They compare emotional chemistry. They compare understanding. They compare comfort. They compare the way their heart reacted effortlessly with you to how forced everything else has begun to feel. And comparison is dangerous when someone is already emotionally conflicted, because once a person begins noticing what is missing, they cannot unsee it. And your person is noticing They are noticing where connection feels shallow, where energy feels strained, where affection feels performed instead of natural, and whether they admit it aloud or not, that awareness keeps leading them back to one thought. What if what I had with you was never ordinary? That question has become louder with each passing day, because the fight did not just expose lingering feelings, it forced your person to reconsider the value of what was lost. Sometimes people only understand depth after distance. Sometimes they only recognize rarity after settling for something less aligned. Sometimes they only appreciate what was real when they experience what is not. And that painful understanding is beginning to form in them now. They are starting to see your connection differently, not as a chapter they survived, not as a memory to file away, not as something that simply happened and ended, but as something significant, something rare, something they may have misunderstood while living inside it. And with that realization comes regret. Quiet regret at first, the kind no one sees. Regret over words unsaid. Regret over pride maintained too long. Regret over moments mishandled because emotional maturity had not yet caught up with feeling. They may not fully know what to do with that regret yet, but it is there, growing. Lately, they have found themselves revisiting old memories and questioning choices they once believed were final. At the center of those thoughts is you. Not because anyone pushed them toward these emotions, and not because of some unrealistic fantasy, but because their own heart keeps leading them back to something that never truly felt finished. Even the people around them are beginning to notice what can no longer be hidden. The tension is no longer only about past conversations or uncomfortable moments. It is about the deeper truth that has quietly revealed itself to everyone involved, that your presence still carries emotional weight in their life. Your name still changes their mood. Your memory still stirs emotions they cannot fully control. And the connection between you was never as distant or insignificant as they once tried to pretend. That realization has become difficult for them to escape, because once someone becomes honest with themselves emotionally, returning to denial becomes almost impossible. They are beginning to understand that continuing to ignore these feelings may only leave them trapped in constant inner conflict. This is why change has slowly started unfolding inside them, not recklessly and not all at once, but in a steady and undeniable way. Reflection is gradually turning into clarity, and clarity is beginning to push them toward action. They are becoming more emotionally aware, more vulnerable, and far more conscious of what their heart truly wants. Perhaps the most powerful realization of all is not simply that they still care about you. It is the understanding that no one else has affected them in the same meaningful way. That truth has quietly changed everything for them. The way they think about the past, the way they process their emotions, and even the way they move through everyday life. Missing someone is already difficult, but realizing no one else has been able to replace the feeling they once had with you carries a completely different kind of weight.